There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have a car stopped in 10th and Ranch Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Folks, we've been following this Madeline Kingsbury case, and of course, she first went missing on March 31st, and we all know today is the 18th, so it's been 19 days since she went missing. We know that the Winona, Minnesota police are doing everything they can, searching in every possible area they can. They're interviewing people, they're getting tips, and they're acting upon all these tips. That's about all they can do at this point. However, there's an organization that I recommended to the family, to the Kingsbury family, that's called Texas Equus Search. And these folks are a nonprofit organization that are unbelievable in searching and recovering people in regards to these type of searches. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And I called the Winona police today, and twice I couldn't get through. I called the tip line, and I actually got an operator. I said, could you switch me to the detectives? I was switched to a number that just rang off the hook. So if anyone's listening to the police department, this is the Texas Equus group on the screen right now, and it's TexasEquusSearch.org is their website. And I have the number of the contact person, a gentleman named Dave Rader. And I'm not going to put it out on the screen, but if anyone from the Winona Police Department is interested in contacting them, again, it's TexasEquusSearch.org is their website. And if you want to email Police Off the Cuff, our email is policeoffthecuff, just one word, policeoffthecuff, the number one @gmail.com. You could email. I've been trying to reach out to you. I actually gave the information to Megan Kingsbury. And Texas Equus Search or Midwest Equus Search, they will not get involved unless the family and or the police department request them for their assistance. So they're offering their assistance. I spoke to Dave Rader, who's one of the top guys at Texas Equus Search. So if you want them to help in this search, which I recommend you do, they're ready, willing, and able to help you guys. And, they're a tremendous, tremendous organization. And they found thousands of people in their history. So I recommend you guys get them involved in the search, and they do amazing things. So folks, you may ask, and we're all, of course, getting frustrated with this. What are they doing now? It's been 19 days. What's going on? And I understand, look, the weather has changed. I understand Minnesota got 11 inches of snow a day or two ago. That changes the whole quality of the search and whether you can even search in areas that are covered over. However, they can never quit. And the tips line is constantly bringing in tips. And hopefully they'll get targeted searches. And they'll be able to target specific areas based on information. But the investigation never stops. We talk about if they have someone in mind, and we think they do have someone in mind, you have to do what's called a perpology, and that's the study of the background or a person of interest background check. And I think what they have to do is a deep dive into this person's life, the person's history, his friends, his family, his computer habits, his vehicle, his financial habits. Dig into everything, because the answer may just pop out of doing this backgrounding, you could call it. I call it perpology. And I know they're saying they don't have a person of interest. We believe that otherwise, but we'll play the game as long as they want to. Person of interest, they would like to say. So folks, I have with us tonight, I have two special guests. And of course, she's been coming on somewhat regularly in the last couple of weeks, months since we discovered her. She's like a discoverable actress. We discovered her on a bus in Manhattan. No, that's not true. But welcome to the show tonight. We have attorney, actress, mother of five, Melanie Little. Melanie, welcome to the show tonight.
Hi, Bill. It's so good to see you. How are
It's
you?
good to see you too. Welcome to the show. And these are not easy questions we're going to ask. And we're going to reach out to you and ask you some difficult questions. Relative, maybe you could take the other side of the fence, the side of a potential person of interest. Also with us tonight, retired NYPD Sergeant, Professor, Attorney, Mike Geary, and he's got his old background, so you might like his some.
Good evening, guys.
He got away
Hi,
from
Mike.
he got away from some of the other stuff that he had up there. So people missed your other background, Mike, but it's okay. Mike, it's frustrating. Everyone following this case, and I sort of resigned myself to try to stay with this case to help both the family and, of course, Madeline Kingsbury, and just this case. These are horrible cases, and we've covered so many of these cases over time. And what are your thoughts now about where the police and what the police should be doing right now?
Well, it's frustrating. I've never been involved in a case search that lasted this long while I was as a sergeant or as a patrolman. But it's very frustrating because, there is a person out there who's missing. That as days go on, hours goes on, then days go on. Now we're into several weeks. Hope does dim for a safe return. But the problem is, that the family is really suffering because his family is looking to you as a law enforcement officer. We're not like a 48 hours TV show. There's not always going to be a happy ending. There's not always going to be an easy ending. There's not always going to be a quick ending. And we do know that sometimes we do see cases that drag on for many, maybe even many years, months and years. We hope that doesn't happen. But if I'm the officers there, I'm going to target my searches. You've done all kinds of wide canvases, I should say, with many people. If the snow is melted and it's a little bit easier now that as we get into April, redo those searches again. And I know they're organizing volunteer searches still, but the targeted searches, like they're using dive teams and dog teams from Iowa, Wisconsin, and also the Minnesota, Bureau of BACS, I think they call themselves as the acronym. You get frustrated, but it's better now, perhaps, that you just start narrowing things down, and that's where you hope that you're much more effective and you can actually get an answer for the family, much sooner.
Melanie, we mentioned off the air, and I of course, myself and Mike Geary, even though maybe he's a little more reasonable than me, but we come from a prosecutorial and an arrest-oriented and get the bad guy and target and do the investigation. And I believe there's a person of interest right now, and I don't know half of probably not a tenth of what the police in Winona know about this case. So I view it as, if a husband in a case like this, who's the last person to see his wife alive, I believe if he invokes counsel, to me, that's a sign of guilt. Your thoughts?
Oh, to me, that's the sign of a smart person or anybody who's ever watched any of the Dick Wolf shows. I mean, immediately, the first thing you do is ask for a lawyer, right? Anything you say can and will be held against you. And people know that the first suspect is always going to be the spouse, the significant other, 9 times out of 10. So the fact that he lawyered up to me doesn't indicate to me anything more than he got good advice. Anything he can say will hurt him. If he does a press conference, if he talks to the media, every single thing that he does or says is going to be construed in the worst possible light. That's my opinion. Well, it doesn't mean that he's guilty because he lawyered up.
Right. I just think if my wife was missing and I had totally zero involvement in it, I would 100% cooperate with the police. And if I was innocent, they could ask me whatever they wanted to ask me. But I think to steal the line of the great Professor Mike Geary, I think it's consciousness of guilt.
Has he refused to talk to the police?
Not initially, he did. Now he lawyered up very quickly, though.
Has he been interviewed? His statement was that he has been cooperating with the police.
Well, according to him, he's been interviewed numerous times, but a lot of the things that he has stated, the police said, we never said that. Like he had stated that they told him not to take part in the search because people would point fingers at you. It might get violent. And according to the police, they never said any of that to him. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, but I understand as a lawyer, but also understand a police officer's point of view. And I'm torn on this because I do want to, give the person the benefit of the doubt. And if I was his lawyer, and he probably had a lawyer already, if they were breaking up and there was some property that had to be divided and, child visitation issues that were coming up, he might have already had a lawyer, for a month or two already. So obviously, if he had one already on retainer for a civil issue that he had with Madeline, that would be the first person he'd call. But as a police officer, I know that, I wouldn't expect a completely innocent person to lawyer up. And that's where I'm torn. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, the idea that he's innocent until proven guilty. But he may, in fact, have had a lawyer already. And as Madeline said, I'm sorry, as that is the absolute smart thing to do. That is what you do, is lawyer up. And I think if I was his civil attorney, I would tell him to lawyer up and don't speak to anybody until as a civil attorney, I get a criminal attorney to help. I hate to say it, but I think that actually is good advice.
One of the things, and of course, I'm putting my police investigator cap on, and there's a million things you do in response to the scene. And let's hope everything was done correctly. But one of the biggest things you do, and so much of it is a deep dive into the paper. You're doing a deep dive. And by that, what I mean is, it seems that Adam and Madeline have been together probably at least 6 years. They have a 5-year-old. So I don't know exactly how long they've been together, but let's do a dive. Did they ever have the police respond to their house? Has there been any police reports made during their relationship? Do they have a domestic violence history? Did they potentially have get family court involved in the custody battle here? Because it seemed like they were breaking up. All of these things are investigative tools that the investigator wants to know to draw what may eventually become probable cause. Facts and circumstances that allow a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been committed and the person to be arrested committed that crime. Now, Melanie, off the air, we spoke about the paperwork from the custody issue when the police came and took the children away. You want to speak to that?
Correct. So under Minnesota law, this is interesting to me because this is not the case in New York, but under Minnesota law, an unmarried mother automatically has custody of the children. So because Madeline was missing, the biological father, which in this case is Adam, did not automatically have parental rights. And if I can pull that up, I think it's on my phone. What I found interesting was that the state had to petition to get those children away from him. Apparently, he took those children to his parents' house. And in the petition, whoever drafted this indicated that one of the reasons they wanted to take the children away from the father is because an injurious or dangerous environment may include, but is not limited to, the exposure of the children to criminal activity in the children's home. What do they mean by that? Do they have any evidence that there was some criminal activity going on in the home? Did they search the home? Did they find anything in the home that could indicate that there was any kind of criminal activity going on in the home? To me, that doesn't shout, we think he's a suspect and therefore we need to take the children away. So I just pointing this out because it's in the petition.
Right. I want to play devil's advocate. And what judge would give the children back to the baby's father, and we're not going to call him the husband, you could maybe say common law husband, what judge would give these two children back to a man that potentially could be the person responsible for his common law wife's being missing? If anything happened to those children, that judge would be drawn and quartered.
100%. But why put the children in the system? Why not put the children with the grandparents?
That I have a problem with too. I don't know the answer
You know,
to that.
why? I mean, these
Yeah.
children are 5 and 2. To take these children from the only home they've probably ever known and to put them with foster parents or in the system somehow, to me, that's cruel. And I don't know that that's the case. Maybe they did put them with one of the sets of grandparents. Maybe there was some sort of in-camera petition where they had to set forth certain evidence that they had against the father, and they said to the judge, this is why we really need to get the kids away from him. But you're right. I don't think that they would leave the kids with the dad if the dad was a suspect.
So does that maybe tell us that the judge believes?
It tells us something about Minnesota and the parental rights. I mean, more than anything else. But yeah, could it point to that? Sure. You know, there's a lot of questions that I have about their relationship. There's a lot of things that the police know that we don't know. And the things that you were talking about, you know, had there been any prior calls? Had there been an abusive relationship? Were the police ever involved in anything? Those are all relatively easy things for the police to get immediately, right? So that
Yes.
stuff's isn't going to take 19 days. The stuff that's going to take longer is DNA, forensic evidence, hair, blood, if there is any, electronic evidence. Remember in Koberger, it took them 7 weeks to arrest him, and they had bodies and mountains of potentially forensic evidence. You know, here it's a very different case, but police reports, calls to the house, social services, any court orders, any proceedings that they had ongoing would all be very easily obtainable by the police and quickly.
No, 100%. But one of the things that also is known is that the home of Richard and Ann Fravel, who are Adam's parents, was the subject of 2 search warrants.
Mhm.
So why don't they just name Adam as a suspect right now? You don't do search warrants on the family of someone and then, oh, what'd you do that for? I mean, I think at some point the police have to pull the trigger on this, you know, and name him as a suspect. And look, they can take their time on the investigation. If they name him, he's already lawyered up. He's not talking to them. He's not cooperating. So naming him as a suspect doesn't hurt the investigation in any way.
But what's the
It
benefit?
doesn't really, you know.
What's the benefit to name him as a suspect? Don't you think they want to make an arrest?
100%. And you know, to make an arrest, you need probable cause. You don't need in fact committed. You don't need preponderance of evidence. You don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. You need probable cause.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What is the benefit to naming him as a suspect without arresting him?
No. I'm saying at some point they're going to have to arrest him. Yeah, right. You don't naming him as a suspect is just appeasing the press and everyone that's nosy that wants to know.
Right.
But I think they probably do have very close, if not probable cause to make an arrest. And let's not forget, you know, there's been arrests made and where the person who's missing has never been recovered and has been successful prosecutions. That's what people always say. Oh, if they don't find her, how can they? Well, it's been done before. Mike, I hate to keep you waiting for so long. I can see the DNA in your brain working. I can see it overheating that you want to talk for a second. Go ahead.
No, because I'm listening to what Melanie's saying, and I'm like, I agree with this. And I listen to what you say, and I'm like, I agree with that too. So I got this struggle going on.
Mike, you know what my English professor used to say years ago, Dr. Schwartzman, you can't be 50% pregnant. It makes a lot of sense.
It's true. It's true. It's like being, you know, oh yeah, can't be 50% pregnant. But I was thinking about the taking the child away from Mr. Fravel, and I'm wondering, the state made the allegation or at least the charge to the judge that there was some sort of ongoing criminal activity. Now, I originally thought maybe that could be narcotic use, excessive consumption of alcohol, perhaps, where maybe the children had been previously exposed to alcohol, or maybe some sort of pornography. But it could just be, and I'm thinking about this from what Melanie said, it could be that the state is arguing behind closed doors and didn't want to spell it out in open court and just put the term, ongoing criminal activity. Perhaps the ongoing criminal activity is just that Mr. Fravel is actually a suspect. They don't want to name him a suspect, but the idea that he has information that he's withholding during an investigation, they may consider some sort of obstruction of criminal justice, obstruction of we say government obstruction. They may consider that the withholding of evidence as a crime in and of itself. So there would be, supporting this allegation in order to get the children away from him on a very slim theoretical basis. Could possibly be, or it could be something else. But I agree. I don't see how naming him as a suspect or charging him or anything like that at this point, name him as a suspect, a person, of interest, or I can't stand that term, but there's nothing to be gained by it. As Melanie said, he's already lawyered up. He's not going to, he knows what time it is. He's not just going to walk on into the police station whenever you want. He's not going to be sweet talked into talking to the police without an attorney. He already has one. He can't talk to them without his attorney present. They can't talk to him without his attorney present. They can't go to his house, nothing like that. Nothing, no other kind of situation to try to get around Miranda. So I agree. They're trying to string it out as long as they can for some particular reason, maybe a few extra weeks. But I think they absolutely know who is in their sights, and they are just waiting to pull the trigger. Why do they do that? Like Melanie said, it's gonna, you have to take. Sometimes it's just going to take weeks to get some information that they don't have. They don't want to do something in a high-profile case like this that may backfire on them. They want to take their time, and I agree. Take their time, do it right. As we talk about in the Kohlberger case, you've got one real good shot at it, and you don't want to mess it up.
100%. The other night, Megan Kingsbury was on our favorite News Nation correspondent, Chris Cuomo.
2 weeks ago, a 26-year-old Minnesota mom named Madeline Kingsbury dropped off her two kids at daycare, as she did, okay? And her kid's father, Adam Fravel, I called him the husband.
Sorry, guys. He's talking about Adam Fravel. He's naming him right there, I guess, as a person of interest, a person that, potential suspect. I apologize that this is frozen up. There he goes.
He's the father of the kids, and they live together. So whatever. He's in the same position in terms of our analysis. He was with her at the time, but she hasn't been seen since. He said he didn't see her after that. Police are calling her disappearance involuntary and suspicious. Also suspicious, Fravel has not participated in any of the searches that police have held. Is there a good reason for that? Her sister, Megan Kingsbury, joins us right now. First of all, Megan, thank you for doing this. How's the family holding up?
It's up and down every day. We're trying to stay strong for Maddie, and we hope to have some good news that we have found her really soon.
Now, I can assume the answers to a couple of these questions, but we should lay it out for the audience anyway. Was your sister, to your knowledge, and I know you guys were close, was she dealing with anything? Was she upset?
I love news reporters that question and give the answers to the questions. It's just uncanny how he does that, and a lot of them do it. It's like, let her answer the question, and again, it's freezing up. I'm going to remove it because it's not helping us. There we
Had
go.
she been spiraling? Had she ever said anything to you about wanting to get away from her life or run away?
No, I mean, if she ever wanted a break. I mean, she would come to my house and she'd bring the kids. So she wasn't ever one to just kind of walk off and disappear for anything.
The idea that she would leave her kids.
Never in a million years. Negative chance.
Hey, thank you.
So I don't know if that really cleared up anything, but you know, he did ask some questions that maybe some folks would want to know. Were there any problems in the relationship? Which, you know, look, I think that the Kingsbury family has been very, very, very well coached, as they should be, and what to say and what not to say to the press. Because, look, we watched that also in the Idaho case. You know, Ethan Chapin, Zaina Knodel, Madison Mogan, and Zaylee Gonzalez, and we saw how damaging it was for certain people, even family members, that were going to the press every other night and giving opinions or releasing information that the police didn't want released. So we understand this. And look, we're not at all criticizing the police. We understand it. But I guess, like investigators, you know, we want to know the inside track here. And we get a little bit frustrated when we don't know some of the answers to this, so we could proceed to the next level. Mike?
Yeah, Billy, I think that Mr. Fravel is cooperating with the police when he has to, and I think his attorney told him, anytime you're called, we'll go down together, we'll do that, we'll talk. Just follow my lead. I think the attorney was smart. Looking at it from his attorney's point of view, I think it was smart for him not to show up at press conferences or give, quick on the spot answers to reporters, because he might say something that might be twisted, because whatever he would say, as you know, is going to be examined and turned over, like as if people are looking at it under a microscope. We are all frustrated, and I think that the only thing we could hope for is that the police just keep doing what they're doing at the rate, at the pace that they're doing it. They're playing it smart, and we have to have faith in them that they're doing it with all the information they have and all the cooperation they're getting from other law enforcement agencies within and without the state. That we have to trust their judgment on this 100%, because you can describe yourself crazy, trying to figure out what they do have and what they don't have, and why. It's like a chess match too, because they may have a suspect, they want to make a certain move. We saw that in the Koberger case, so we just have to take it on faith that the police are in command of the situation, even though Madeline has not yet been recovered, that they are still in control of the situation and know exactly what they're doing.
They also point, they always point to forensic evidence. And that, again, takes time. As Melanie said before, it takes time for DNA to come back. It takes time for electronic information to come back. The vehicle, which they've invoiced, and no doubt will be going through with a forensic team, but they also want to go through the computer and see where that car was, see if it stopped anywhere, and for how long did it stop, see the speeds it was going, where was it, where did it stop. It doesn't make any sense that Adam Fravel just drove around for 3.5 hours. And where did he go? If he said he was running errands, does he have receipts? Is there video of him going into certain stores? Those are the things that, again, take tremendous amounts of time also. Melanie, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I have to give Megan so much credit, because she has done so many interviews and she must be exhausted, and she is really doing everything possible for her sister. I have a sister, and I can't even imagine what she's going through. My sister and I talk multiple times a day. So kudos to Megan, and, our prayers are with you. As far as the rest of it, he's talked. My thinking is he's talked to police. He probably told them where he went. Maybe they already have a timeline of exactly where he says that he went. Everyone's making a big deal about it was so unusual for him to take the van. I don't know. There's some talk about she was moving out. You know, if he had to go, listen, if you say you have to go to Home Depot for something, big things, you would take a van, right? Instead of, I don't know what kind of car he drives. Does anybody know what kind of car he drives? Is it a small car?
I don't know.
I don't
You
know.
know, everyone's making a big deal that, you know, the two of them would drop them off at preschool together. Let me tell you what, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old can be, like, to use the words of another case, rambunctious. Like, if two parents can go to bring the kids to school, you know, it's very helpful. I don't think that's unusual at all. And I think even the teachers at the school or the administration of the school had said it wasn't unusual for them to both come. I think what was unusual is that she did not come to pick them up. And my understanding is that he had to be called to come and get them. Do you have any further information on that?
Yeah, well, I was listening to an interview with Megan, and she said that she called him at around 7 p.m. and he didn't return her call till after 8. And of course, all the red flags the family saw about no contact. The mother had called her, Megan had called her, and there was no answer. And then Adam, in fact, was the last person who saw her. So, of course, they're calling him, what's going on? And it was a little, well, she didn't really let on that much, but she had called at 7. He didn't call her back till after 8. So for her, that was an emergency. Maybe for him, it wasn't, you know. So again, do we read into that and look at that as suspicious conduct, as Professor Geary would say, consciousness of guilt? You know, what was that, Mike?
I mean, to me, everything is consciousness of guilt. However, you know, as Melanie knows, people's characteristics, their habits, that could be used as evidence of how they may have acted on a particular day in the absence of any other further, objective evidence. Do people go out jogging every day at 2:00 in the afternoon? Do they eat dinner early, like say 5:00 in the evening? Do they go to bed early? Do they arise early? All of these things that may, we as police officers believe may be consciousness of guilt, not answering back your sister-in-law's phone call when she was calling or looking for her sister. To us, that seems suspicious, but you do have to be fair to Mr. Fravel, you have to look at it from that side. That is something that maybe he just doesn't like to pick up the phone. Maybe he doesn't really like the family that much, and he doesn't really want to talk to them. Maybe it could have been that he and his Madeline had a fight, and he didn't want to talk to anybody. You have to look at all of these things. And as much as I just want to say, I'm a cop, consciousness of guilt, that sort of thing, case closed. You do actually have to give people their due. You got to give them the benefit of the doubt. And Melanie's right. You have to.
100%. Guys, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime stories from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button. Make comments. We love to read your comments. We love to respond to your comments. We also have a Patreon with 3 different levels, and you can join our Patreon as well as our YouTube channel memberships. You see the folks in the green font. They're all members of our YouTube channel, and we appreciate our subscribers, our fans, and our friends that support Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. You guys are amazing, and there wouldn't be a channel without you guys. This case is just, again, it's going to keep going on and on and on. And every investigation, when you hit a brick wall, you start all over. You keep going. You keep moving forward. You keep talking to people. You keep going over the evidence. You wait till the evidence comes back and you pick up the investigation the next day. You cannot give up with this. And nor do I think the police have any intention of giving up, but it does get frustrating when the information is not forthcoming. So let me just play a little bit of this.
Efforts to find a missing mother. It's been more than 2 weeks since Madeline Kingsbury was last seen Police calling her disappearance suspicious and say they are getting many leads. ABC's Jacqueline Lee joins us with more. Jacqueline, good morning.
Janae, good morning to you. 17 days. That's how long Maddie Kingsbury has been missing. Police and her family in Minnesota still frantically searching for her as we are learning more details about the relationship between the 26-year-old mother and her children's father. That father made his first public comments this week saying he had nothing to do with Maddie's disappearance.
This morning, as officials try to piece together why a Minnesota mom would go missing, we are learning new details about the father of her two children. Maddie Kingsbury vanished 2 weeks ago, police calling her disappearance suspicious. In Winona, thousands have showed up to search for her.
The leads that are coming in is unbelievable. We are actually getting hundreds of them. We have a lot of information that we're trying to process right now.
Adam Fravel, who has a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son with Kingsbury, missing in that search. Fravel was recently served with a protective order, social workers placing a 72-hour hold on Maddie's children. In the document, police say Maddie is considered an endangered missing person and that when they arrived at the home, he became non-cooperative, taking one of the children in the house and locking the door while shouting.
What are your thoughts there, Melanie?
Honestly, I think that's a natural reaction. Somebody's coming to
Why
take
do I
your
ask
kids
an
away.
attorney?
Somebody's coming to take your kids away. Listen, all right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If he had nothing to do with her disappearance and he's trying to protect the kids now because their mom is missing and he is really worried about what happened to her, let's say, and all of a sudden social services is knocking on your door wanting to take your kids away. I mean, are you just going to say, okay, here, take them. Here you go. Take my kids. They're fine.
Melanie, I actually agree with you. I mean, I know
I don't find anything unusual about that. And I some people curse a lot when they get upset. I just don't. I don't find that to be out of the ordinary, or I don't find that to be any consciousness of guilt.
Professor Geary, what are your thoughts?
I have to agree with Melanie. I have to agree with Melanie on that. If somebody came to take away my children, I don't know if I'd open up the door for them. I'd lock the door right in their face. So yeah, if he had nothing to do with it and he was innocent, I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't let them on my property.
100%. I agree with you guys. So we got 3 out of 3 right there.
Shouting expletives, eventually complying. The document also states that he does not have custodial rights.
It's clear that this case, I think, is all tied to the custody and control of these children. If Maddie is gone, he would ultimately, at some point, in his mind at least, have full custody of his children.
Fravel has denied any involvement in Kingsbury's disappearance, writing in a statement this week, "I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want that more than anything." According to the police timeline, Kingsbury and Fravel dropped their kids off at daycare shortly after 8 a.m. on March 31st and then returned home. Fravel saying he left the house in her dark blue Chrysler minivan around 10 a.m. When he returned, she was not there. Maddie's sister now telling ABC News that the two lived together, but they were no longer in a relationship and that Maddie was looking for a new place to live.
We love her and we're not going to stop. We're not going to let her become a statistic.
Police say they are now processing all the evidence for clues, including the minivan, Maddie's home, and the jacket she was wearing that morning.
Maddie's family saying this is the most traumatic time in their life, and all they want is to bring her home.
Folks, they had also said that, of course, we know this from being in the police business, that the most dangerous time in a relationship is when the breakup is occurring and one or both of the parties are separating. Someone's leaving. Maybe the person that doesn't want to leave is being forced to leave. That's the most dangerous. And usually for the woman in the relationship, it's the most dangerous time. Melanie, your thoughts?
I think that 100% could cause somebody to spin out of control. If a person thought their children were going to be taken away from them when they had been living with their children for their entire lives, more than 5 years, and all of a sudden they weren't going to be living with their children anymore. And under the law, they were not going to be even entitled to custody without a big fight. I could see how that would cause someone to spiral out of control 100%.
Professor.
Once again, I have to agree with Melanie on this one because, yeah, you know, I've seen this on many occasions, answering closed jobs that we talked about before. You know, domestic violence cases. It's usually it's when the lady says, "I've had it, I'm out of here," and suddenly, you know, you start to hurt the one you profess to love, and it's a thin line between love and hate at that moment. And it's not even like a solid line. It's like a dash, you know, like a dashes, and people can go back and forth within the same argument. They're in love 1 second, and another minute they hate each other, at each other's throats. It's a very volatile time, and it can sometimes end in real extreme violence, and that is the absolute time when the rubber meets the road, where someone says, "That's it, I've had it, I'm out of here." And then the other person says, "My world is changing. I don't want it to change. I like it like it is. I demand that it stay the way it is, and that's the way I want it. You can't have it your way. You can't leave, you know, never." And then it just ends up in a clash.
100%. Let me finish this here.
As for Adam Fravel, he says he was advised by law enforcement that he not attend the press conferences or assist in her search, but police say they are not aware of any law enforcement giving him that advice. Gio.
So that's how it was updated. One of the most recent reports. Mary Michael, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Early in the going, I thought I heard the dad had restricted custody rights and was only allowed supervised visits. Custody was a huge issue. Well, Melanie, you just spoke upon that. And apparently, once this occurred, there was action, I would imagine, by family court, maybe even possibly criminal court, that to put this court order by the judge that his custody was taken from him.
Yes, and I don't know if there had been, I think she may be referring to, there may have been a custody proceeding already happening prior to her disappearance. And I don't know that that's the case, but that could be. And again, that would be something that the police would be able to access very quickly. And they probably have the answer to that. I'm sure they have the answer to that already.
Right. No, all of these things are just little computer checks, and they could check all of those things.
Right,
as
the court system.
Yeah. As they can check
history.
criminal histories, they can check DMV, they can check your driver's license. More difficult to do financials and things like that. It has to be usually done through the district attorney's office or through the police department's legal bureau, as Professor Mike can attest to, since he was a member of the vaunted NYPD legal bureau at one time.
Vaunted, yeah. Yes. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Community support gathering. This is interesting. It just shows you how close and how cohesive this community is. We grieve with the family of Maddie Kingsbury and the communities in our area as the search for her continues. For some, this has maybe brought up emotions in you that are distressing or challenging to manage or make sense of. Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center would like to offer a safe, quiet space for you and your community to be together, to support each other. This is not a formal educational or therapy gathering, but an informal time for us to support one another. Right? Friday, April 21st from 5 to 7, community gathering, it says where it is, and Saturday, April 22nd from 12 to 2. It's interesting that the community is doing that, because this obviously has upset the community a great deal. Evidence of that is that 2,000 people took part in the search in the early days of this search. Shows what community could pull 2,000 people together to participate in a search like this. Melanie, your thoughts?
Sounds like a very close-knit community. It's wonderful. I think, have the police called these searches off with the volunteers? I heard that somewhere. I don't know if they're still doing the searches, but just the fact that 2,000 people would show up to volunteer their time is really incredible.
I think that what the police are doing is more targeted searches. You know, in the beginning, of course, it was all over the place. But here's a candle up on the screen, a blue candle for Madeline. You could see that the community of Winona and the surrounding areas, a close community, they're really waiting for something to happen positive that they can maybe put this behind them. And we see the Kingsbury family, how close they are. Megan being the spokesperson, who's been nothing but fantastic. I mean, just imagine going on national television and talking about your missing sister, the closest person to you in your life, and doing it on multiple nights. And not an easy thing to do also, and withholding things, of course, that the police, the Winona police, don't want them to tell anyone. And they know things, trust me, they know things that they're not letting on. And that's not an easy thing to withhold it, because you absolutely have your own personal thoughts and opinions on who potentially should be held responsible for this. Professor Mike.
Yeah, I salute the Kingsbury family. They're a rock solid family, and they're doing the right thing by Madeline. They're not being very, in their use of language, they're being very measured. I think it's terrific. I think they're doing their sister proud. And I think for the community, it's a wonderful thing, because that's a therapeutic type of activity. When people are assaulted or kidnapped or whatever it happens to be in your community, not only is the victim suffering, the victim's family is suffering, but the community suffers, because you feel a little bit less safe. And that area that you once thought was a very safe place to raise children and to live, and many people live in some of these small towns without locking their doors, that changes the way it changes the quality of your life. So I think it's very wonderful to see the community come out as one and say, here we are. We want to be part of this. And I know they've limited now the searches to more targeted areas, but maybe that's also to do with the weather and and now that we're getting deeper into April. Always having the community involved, and the police asking the community to be involved, and having the community respond positively like they have been already. That is a wonderful thing. And with that sort of concern, they have the greatest chances of finding Madeline.
100%, folks. I also am going to put up on the screen right now, and this is also for the Winona police. They volunteered to help out in this search. Texas EquiSearch, Midwest EquiSearch, it's the same people. That's their website. You can reach them. I've already spoken to Dave Rader. I tried to call the Winona police and give them Dave Rader's telephone number. I gave it to Megan Kingsbury. They're an unbelievable asset to have in a search like this. And as I said, I can't say enough great things. Myself and Duty Ron are actually honorary members of Texas EquiSearch. So if I could put my cowboy hat on and get on a horse and say Yahoo, I'm part of EquiSearch. And as I said, I cannot praise them enough. And if you're listening, Winona Police, they're waiting for your call. They're willing to help, and they have all kinds of resources, and they've done thousands of these searches. So if you want to reach me, police off the cuff, just one word, police off the cuff, the number 1 at gmail.com. I can actually put it in I'll put it in here, police off the cuff. That's why I never was an author. You see how I'm a typical cop, a 2-finger typist.
That was an uncomfortable silence. I
Yeah,
think
so
we're
it's
all
a-
hoping that Maddie is found alive and safe.
100% we are.
And that's the hope here. And every minute it feels like a year to her family right now, and it's got to be torturous. I can't even imagine what it's like.
People have commented in the chat about what we spoke about. Someone trying to take your kids away, and I think we would all agree we would all resist that, and that's not in Geary's immortal words, consciousness of guilt. That's a real human reaction. I don't think anyone would say, "Oh yes, take my kids." It's like Henny Youngman, "Take my wife, please. Take my kids, please."
Right.
No one's going to say that. Just to go over the timeline, guys. On March 31st at 8 a.m., Madeline, and they were referring to Adam at that time as her partner, dropped their 5-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son at daycare. At 8:15, the dark blue 2014 Chrysler Town and Country minivan Madeline drives returns to her residence. Apparently, that's confirmed. Apparently, it's confirmed that she goes back into the house, and I'm not going to say where I got that confirmation from. But does Adam go back into the house? Does she come back out of the house?
Who drove? Who drove the kids to school? Who was driving that day? There's some guys insist on driving. They don't like to be a passenger. Maybe he was driving and then he dropped her off and he said, "I'm going to go run some errands." I don't know. Is it possible? Yes. A lot of things are possible.
Well, the
if
other
it was
thing
confirmed that she went into the house, that would explain why her phone and her wallet were there. Was she a jogger? If he did leave to go run some errands, would she have gone running or something? Because you think, why would anybody ever leave their phone and their wallet and their keys and their jacket and everything? Well, a lot of people who run don't want all that stuff with them. They would leave it at home. They just put their sneakers on and they go out the door and they start running. I don't know what the weather was. I don't know if she was running. I don't know if she even is a jogger, but it's possible. I got
DB Douglas. DB Douglas, good question. And he says it's not a dumb question, DB Douglas. Dumb question, but they must have searched the house. 100%. That's policing 101. You would absolutely search the house. You would process the house forensically also. What do I mean by that? We would bring a crime scene unit to that scene. We would search for evidence. Of course, big pieces of evidence are her jacket, her cell phone, her identification, things like that that were left behind, things that are normally not left behind. So DB Douglas, no way is that a dumb question. That was a very good question.
We just don't
I'm going to go to Suzanne Sanders. If you start seeing red flags, listen to them. Don't have any more children with this man. Don't give him any reason for him to think you want to leave. Raise our daughters so they don't settle. Look, it's all this stuff is easy. There's in human, when we talk about the human condition, not everything makes sense. We can't all be hitting on 8 cylinders all the time. We all make mistakes, and we can't predict the future. So bad things happen to good people. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
And there's no evidence that this was an abusive relationship. There's no evidence that there were a million red flags. Maybe he was a great guy and somebody could suddenly snap one day. We don't know. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you about red flags. Some people see red flags, some people see a parade. But we don't have any evidence to that effect right now, unless there's stuff out there that I'm unaware of.
Well, look, that's all part of the investigation and what that the police know. Again, we were saying this ad nauseum, that they know things, of course, that we absolutely don't know, and this is the police early on in the investigation when they gave a press conference, and the words they used, which reminded me almost of Idaho, and of course, the murders of Ethan Chapin, Zaina Knodel, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves. And it reminded me that they made a statement that reminded me of that case. And they said, this case is suspicious and involuntary. And if you remember the Idaho case, they said this was targeted and specific. They had said early on, and they regretted having said that, because that was put out there, I believe, by the mayor in Idaho, in Moscow, Idaho, the mayor of that town. And you noticed after that day when he said that, he was never allowed to make another damn statement after that. They said, "Mayor, shut up, keep your mouth." Everyone wants to be the spokesperson till things blow up in their face, and then not so much. Mike.
Yeah, that was a good thing that the mayor in that case backed away and let the police and the FBI and everyone else worry about the. I'm sorry, Chief Fry do the main press conferences. Yeah, I think in this case too, the police aren't are going to say a few things when it suits them. They're looking for the public's help. They don't want to give away anything. They're playing their cards close to their vest. That's the way it should be, and we should salute them for it because what they're doing is very controlled, step by step, starting from ground zero investigation. And the more you put out there, the more people speculate. The more people speculate, the more rumors there are. The more rumors there are, the more stuff gets all over the internet. And look what they did to some of the innocent young people in the Idaho case. The bartender, the guy by the food truck. I mean, they were just savaging them. It was terrible. So I think the police are doing it the right way.
Mike, I totally agree with you, and I hate agreeing with lawyers, but I am agreeing with you guys on certain things. I will.
You could agree
when
with
you're
the
right,
professor, though.
when you're right, you're right. I will agree with you. I want to just get back to the timeline a little bit. Now, we were up to 8:15 when she returned home. At 10 a.m., Madeline's partner, and we know him to be Adam Fravel, tells police he left the residence in her van, returned later in the day, and she was gone. Police say there is nothing to suggest she left on foot or in another vehicle. How do we interpret that, Melanie?
That she left in the van. I mean, if she left, obviously, because she wasn't there. She's missing.
That's an interesting statement, right?
Yeah.
So
they lived in a townhouse too. So they had a neighbor. They shared a wall with a neighbor. It was a side-by-side townhouse. I feel like everybody's got a Ring camera nowadays.
I think that's what this evidence came from, was a Ring camera that she returned. But did she then at some point get back into the van? If she didn't leave on foot or in another vehicle, that just leaves this vehicle, doesn't it?
Well, he had a car too, right? So where was his car?
I don't know if, that wasn't in the picture apparently at this scene, because then he says between 10 a.m. through 1:30 p.m., investigators believe a van similar to Madeline's was seen driving on County Road 12 and Highway 43 in Winona County. And then on Highway 43 in Eastern Fillmore County, the van was later found in the driveway of her residence. So for almost 3.5 hours, it was driving around. And this is the time that Adam volunteered that he was running errands. Running errands to where?
Well, look, there's enough information out there right now to craft an alibi, isn't there? We saw the car going this way, and this way. I mean, a good defense attorney is going to say, okay, what's along those routes? Let's craft an alibi. Look, nobody's going to make something up, but I'm just saying this is why you don't want certain information getting out there, because it could help the defense.
100%. That's all true. And again, Melanie, good point that is one of the reasons that law enforcement holds things close to their vest. West Point daughter, thank you so much for the $9.99 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Guys, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like true crime stories, real crime stories from a police perspective, you're in the right place. And if you want to become part of our family, we have a YouTube. You can become a channel member. Go on our YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and give us a thumbs up. And if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels and a YouTube channel memberships with, count them, 5 different levels. So we love our channel subscribers and all our subscribers, fans, and friends on Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. This is a sad case, and I don't want to just keep coming on and just repeating a lot of things. But when we do have new information, I think it can help the family and the community, that people that know about investigation, know about the law, are talking about this, rather than some just people throwing out, rumors on YouTube. So it's a tough case, you know, and again, this will come down, I think, to some type of forensic evidence that will result in perhaps them reaching the level of probable cause that they need to make an arrest in this case. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, I say this a lot, and with all the cases, for the public and people who are watching, patience is everything is needed, because some of the greatest evidence we have, scientific evidence in terms of electronic evidence, in terms of DNA evidence, it takes an hour, sometimes several weeks to a month from the time that it is submitted to a laboratory to get it back. So there may be evidence that the police have. They don't want to indicate what they have to the public, but they may have brought things to a laboratory. They may have gotten warrants, search warrants to get cell phone records, and they may have a tremendous amount of information, and they're just waiting to get all that back. And if there's some sort of blood evidence or anything like that, they're not going to tell the public right now. Cell phone records, they're not going to tell the public right now. But believe me, they have it, and everybody needs patience, because just because it's been almost 3 weeks, it doesn't mean that it is a cold case by a long shot. 3 weeks means that they've been working for 3 weeks. It doesn't mean that they worked for a day and now they're just sitting back and with no idea what to do.
You know, in these big cases in these small towns, I actually take my hat off to these small towns that do request the help from perhaps larger police agencies, the state police, in some cases, the FBI. There's no shame in requesting help. I mean, even getting experts in certain fields, that's all part of this too. Not everyone can be an expert in all aspects of these cases. I just want to, for a second, and I know that probably everyone's watching this or is going to be watching this, and it's the Boston Marathon documentary on Netflix. And when you look at a large investigation like that, you see how difficult it was, and actually how quickly they were able to solve that case. You take your hat off, and how the Boston police commissioner, Ed Davis, vehemently disagreed with the FBI about one of the biggest topics in the investigation, and it was to release or not to release the video of the suspects they had. And Ed Davis, the police commissioner of Boston, was 100% behind releasing it immediately. And the FBI, like is sort of their modus operandi, was against releasing it. Now, we on the NYPD, we would release it, because now you got 8 million eyes out there, or 16 million, because people have 2 eyes. There's 16 million eyes out there looking for these guys rather than 300 FBI agents. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Melanie?
Does it make any sense that they would not want to release the video?
Yeah. I mean, look, decisions like that are made all the time in investigations, you know?
Yeah, that's outside my purview. I will say that I was in Boston this weekend, and there were a lot of low-flying helicopters, and I didn't realize until I saw your show while I was away that it was the 10th anniversary, and the security there was tight.
Yeah. And you know something, but the security the day it happened, April 15th, 2013, was tight too. But, you know, it's in this world we live in situations like that, you got to ban backpacks now. You just got to ban them, because a pressure cooker bomb could fit in a backpack. And that's what these bombs were. They were pressure cookers. So it's sad, but in this world we live in, that you would think, yeah, let's ban the bomb, but we got to ban what it can be put into. And in these cases, that's why, you know, you see a lot of sporting events now. No backpacks. You're not bringing backpacks in there. I mean, I'm sort of segued off this case, but
yeah,
I'm just making a point about big investigations, you know?
Yeah.
And this is a big investigation now, you know?
And you
all
know,
hands on
but
deck.
listen, people go missing every single day. The reason this is a big case right now is because of Megan. That's the reason this thing has national exposure, because she's out there, she's doing interviews, she's not giving up. There's a million cases just like this every day that don't get this kind of exposure. So again, hats off to her.
100%. You know, guys, I'm going to go to a quick commercial. Folks, if you're looking for a great attorney in the New York City metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a retired NYPD police officer, an outstanding defense attorney. He's so busy now, probably because of this commercial, you know. I want to convince him that's why he's so busy. But he's so busy now, he used to come on our show all the time, and he's too busy to do that. But you can reach Joe on his cell phone at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com, or go on his website at jmurray-law.com. Joe Murray is a great friend of Police Off the Cuff, a huge supporter, a fantastic police officer, and an even better attorney. If you ever heard his life story, you would be like, oh my God. He's a boxer. He got up off the canvas after taking a huge left hook and turned his whole life around, you know. And we actually have 2 episodes. He tells his whole police department story. Very interesting, but I won't go over it right now. Melanie, we're at an hour and 5 minutes. Your final thoughts.
100%. The reason Joe Murray is so busy is because of you.
Yeah, right.
That is.
I'm even laughing at that.
The Rangers are up 1-0 over the Devils, first game of the playoffs tonight. So yay. Look, my prayers go out to the family. I really hope that Madeline is found soon, safe and alive. And I wish nothing more than that. I don't get discouraged, viewers, family, because you think that nothing is going on. There is so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know. And I'm sure there's a mountain of evidence, and the police are doing the right thing and they're in the right direction. And I think it's so hard to be patient because we have this 24-hour news cycle and we want things to happen quickly, and they don't always happen as quickly as we would like them to.
Absolutely.
Just keep the faith.
Mike, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Have the faith in the police department, and if you're out in the Minnesota area around Winona, just like the Boston Marathon bombing, when they got the identity of the Tsarnaev brothers within probably 36 hours after releasing the videotape that showed the faces of the 2 suspects, and in the Koberger case, how much evidence, how many pictures they got from cameras, door ring cameras, security cameras, and that we're able to help put together the timeline of Mr. Koberger going to and from the Idaho campus. And same thing here. If anyone has any sort of cameras, check them. Security cameras, check them. Commercial cameras, on residential cameras, check them. Any one extra little video of that car passing through in front of a gas station or delicatessen or a supermarket or a home, please check it all out. And whatever you have, even if it seems insignificant, give it to the police. And that's the way that we're going to solve this case.
100%. Folks, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Also, to the Kingsbury family, our prayers are behind you. Megan, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job keeping this case in the public consciousness. And that's how, believe me, the police will keep their foot, the pedal to the metal, as they say, on this case, and keep working hard at it. Again, if you want to reach out to me for Equus Search and the number to call for Equus Search, you can email me at policeoffthecuff1@gmail.com. Prayers to the Kingsbury family. We really pray that Madeline is found safe and sound and brought home to her family. Folks, have a great night from a Police Off the Cuff. Be safe.
Good night.
Good night.
One episode just ain't enough.